Driving, 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 music's blaring in my ears. Engines roaring, 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 the horizon's drawing near.
Welcome to Nonprofit Insider. My name is David Unger, and I'm pleased to be hosting a show with the executive directors and key people of local nonprofits. I've worked in the nonprofit world for over 30 years. In those years, I've realized that the majority of the community does not know about the organizations that provide critical services we sometimes take for granted. Most times they hear about these important groups when you get a letter once a year asking for money. This is a chance to hear about the organizations that touch so many in our community. The opinions expressed on Nonprofit Insider are not necessarily those of WMPG, its staff and underwriters, or USM. Today we have Patsy Murphy, the Animal Refuge League of Greater Portland. Hi, Patsy.
Hi, David. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Before we get into it, I think we should warn the listeners that this could be an off-the-wall show based on the pre-conversations that we've had.
The offline conversations that we've had.
Offline conversations, and even the weather has affected everybody today.
And it's Friday the 13th.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. So one of the... we're going to get into what the Animal Refuge League of Greater Portland is, but how many animals do you think you have there right now?
We have just under 250 animals that are in our facility receiving treatment and care and waiting for a new beginning.
And the one comment you made as we were getting our sound check together, and I asked them, does the weather affect the animals? And you told me something really interesting.
Absolutely it does. So today, for example, the dogs are listening to classical music. They're being read to. Their walks will be shorter today because it's just a miserable day to be outside. On a sunny day, we'll be out playing with them in the yards. They may load into the ARLGP van and head down to the local Dairy Joy to get an ice cream. So yes, weather definitely impacts the way we're able to provide treatment and care for our guests.
All right, so let's start from the beginning now.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the Animal Refuge League.
Yeah, so we were founded in 1904, and it really was the brainchild of concerned women on the West End, along with Governor Percival Baxter. Governor Baxter was a man ahead of his time. He really saw the connection between people, the environment, and animals. And in 1911, we became incorporated. We were in a little space on India Street in Portland, caring for the few hundred animals that the city saw, and it was really just the city proper. And at that time, at that turn of the century, animals were really seen as a nuisance in the city, and Governor Baxter didn't view it that way, so he created the Animal Refuge League.
So what's the difference between a humane society, refuge league, shelter?
We're all pretty much the same. Okay. I think some of us have different or limited scope of, how would you say, deliveries or service areas. So, for example, the Animal Refuge League of Greater Portland serves about 300,000 households. We contract with 14 communities that surround us, and we provide space for animals who might be lost, they may be homeless, they may be displaced. We are their safety net. We are their holding facility for animal control officers in those municipalities, as well as the residents who may need us.
So when you talk about you have contracts, so if an animal control officer picks up a stray dog or cat or camel or llama, they would bring it to you as part of the contract.
Correct.
And so I did a lot of work with the Conway Area Humane Society.
Sure.
And I learned a lot about that in the fact that they would take animals no matter what the contract says, and they don't turn the animals away.
We don't. We're what's called an open admission facility. And that means if you live in one of our contracted communities, under our contract obligations, we are required to take your animal. It becomes very difficult during this time of the year when we call it the busy season or it's kitten season. So what we ask folks to do is make an appointment. If you can call us and we can have a dialogue with you about when you need to relinquish or surrender your pet to us because you're moving, life gets in the way, relationships don't work. People ask me all the time, why do animals come to you? There are a whole host of reasons. Companions and guardians pass away. Other family members are not interested in caring for the animal. So we, again, are the safety net. So that means we are making arrangements every day. It's like running a bed and breakfast or a hotel. We need with music and activities. We need those guests to check out, those guests who are ready and able to be adopted. We need them to check out through adoption so that we can bring in that new guest arrival. So making an appointment and having a conversation with your local humane society, your rescue league, or your holding facility is really helpful during the busy season. And we just ask folks and we encourage folks to call ahead and make a reservation.
Totally switching topics now, but when you hear the term kill or no kill shelter, what does that mean?
We as an organization fit the criteria for the no kill movement, meaning we have a very high live release rate, 95%. No animal is euthanized for space, for color, for age. Every guest who comes to the Animal Refuge League is welcome to stay with us as long as they would like. But let me be very clear to you and to your listeners, we don't want to warehouse them and we don't want them living there indefinitely. On average, our guests stay about 11 days, which is a great length of stay. I'd love to have it shorter. But 11 days is a reasonable amount of time for us to hold them under the law. So a stray dog in Maine is a 7-day hold period. Cats are much shorter. It's 48 hours. So in 11 days, they're usually headed home to a new beginning. And so back to kill, no kill.
Right.
So we don't use that because we find that the term is almost inflammatory and it implies that we will never euthanize. And again, to be very clear, there are situations and animals that we cannot rehabilitate. Dangerous dogs or biting dogs who would be a risk to the community. Animals who have a medical condition that we cannot rehabilitate or manage medically, and the animal is suffering. We are going to make an end-of-life decision. We still use hospice homes. We use palliative care. We'll do anything in our power to ease that animal's suffering. But there are times where it is humanely in the animal's best interest to let them go. Did I explain that?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, because people that I've talked to in the community, when you mention kill or no kill, they see it a very definitive black or white scenario, but it's not.
It's not, because these are living beings, and we take each guest, we look at each guest as an individual, and we really try to advocate based on their best attributes. We know that no animal is perfect. There's no perfect adopter. We have very realistic expectations about what we ask our adopters to be able to provide, which is food and love and shelter and basic medical veterinary care.
A little classical music.
We do promote the classical music because it really does make it. The environment matters in the shelter. It's very stressful. You've been to our facility. It's a little antiquated. It's a little outdated. So anything that we can do as care providers to make the environment as soothing and as calming as possible, we do.
Oh, when you think about it, if you're involved with animals at all, you can sense their stress level.
Yes.
And put into that kind of situation where they may have had free run, now they're in kind of a...
There's a loss of dignity.
Yeah.
If you're an animal coming into the facility and you're used to being the prince or the princess in your home, and now you're put into a very small confined space, and it may not be the food that you had at home, and the linens don't really smell like your linens at home.
Right.
We notice there is a transition period, but I will tell you, we also see them adapt to our environment. They overcome whatever adversity has placed them at the league, adapt to our environment, and then it's so heartwarming to watch them embrace a new beginning.
Oh.
It's fabulous.
It is.
It's a great job.
So as an executive director, you've been in the position for how long?
4 years.
4 years. What do you think the largest challenge an executive director of a nonprofit would have in today's society, in our general community? Can't do funding because
everybody will say, funding streams, diversification of funding stream, more revenue. We want more revenue. No, I would say for my position at the league, I've got a team of about 40 employees. I've got a board of about 16. I've got 250 active volunteers. It's managing all stakeholders' expectations and that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
My team relies on me. My board relies on me. Our donors want to know that their dollars are being put to the mission's purpose. So I'm accountable to donors. Those are our investors, and I treat them as investors. So managing their expectations that we are fiscally conservative, we're socially responsible, and we're making a difference in the lives of homeless and displaced pets in Greater Portland. So for me, David, every day it's managing expectations, but more importantly, meeting people's expectations. And in lots of situations, I like to exceed expectations.
So do you do a lot of board trainings to help you
We
define this with your
do.
board and set the boundaries?
We do. So that's a constant dialogue, and that doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of communicating, at times over communicating, educating and inculcating new board members into our organization. And that takes time and resources. And having a board mentor is also really key for bringing on new board
Sure.
members and really helping them navigate how a not-for-profit works, what their duties and responsibilities are, and how we keep those boundaries really clear. We have a strong board chair who will say, that's an operational decision, that's Patsy's purview. Our focus here is on governance and oversight.
And how much money do you have to raise every year?
We run at about $1.6 million to save, over 4,000 lives.
So you have to raise that one?
We have contracts that are approximately $270,000 a year. We've got some grants that we write out for. We have received incredible community support for our work and our mission. So
drilling down, so if we're looking at take away the contracts, you're at about 900,000.
Yeah, so we have to raise, pretty much close to that.
Every year.
Every year, because the numbers aren't going down and the cost of care for these animals is going up. Veterinary care is very expensive. It's almost becoming prohibitive or discretionary. And what we're finding is that animals who are coming to the league haven't been to the vet in about 5 years. So that means the financial burden has now been placed on the league. And we are committed to spaying and neutering, making sure every animal is current on vaccinations and that they've received a vet exam or a wellness check so that we know we are adopting out happy, healthy animals.
Do you feel there's a correlation between animal abuse and human abuse?
Oh, the link is inextricably woven. You can look at the research and the data, and we do know that victims of domestic abuse, and if there are animals in the home, have also experienced that abuse. It can be verbal, it can be physical, it can be, power and control about food and access to areas of the home or access to people or individuals. And we, as an organization, see family law play out in our lobby every day. Animals are incredibly connected to us. They're part of our families. And when the family dynamic breaks down, we also see the animal being impacted.
All right, we're at the point of the show where I get to ask you a trivia question.
Oh, no.
And there's been minimal correct answers. So that's
no pressure, no stress, Patsy.
Right. How many animals enter a shelter each year?
Just at my...
Take a minute or so to think about it. Throughout the country.
Oh, throughout the country.
Throughout the country. I wasn't going to give you an easy one.
Oh.
And that wasn't trivia. That was...
Too many. That's my answer.
No. So today, this is WMPG, and I'm David Unger on Nonprofit Insider, and today we're talking with Patsy Murphy, the Animal Refuge League of Greater Portland. So, Patsy, how many animals enter a shelter in the entire country every year?
Millions.
Well,
Multi-millions.
According to Shelter Pet Project, there are approximately 8 million animals that go into a shelter every year.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. We see it here just in our municipalities and our communities.
Right. One of the things that caught me when I was doing the work with Conway was that people, when you go for fundraising and you talk about an animal shelter or refuge league, people think it's only for people who love animals. But they don't understand that the bigger picture of how your work benefits the entire community.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we rely heavily on the generosity of the public. It's not just their hard-earned money, it's their time, it's their talent, and it's their expertise. Corporate support is invaluable to us to have corporations to send.
But let me
Yeah.
jump back a little bit. How does your work affect somebody who doesn't have an animal
Oh,
or
we
doesn't like animals?
we're keeping stray animals off the street. We're keeping animals safe and protected. We're not seeing animals as a nuisance in the communities that we serve. We're educating the public about animals. And you don't have to like animals to know that the work that we do is important. And we have many folks who will give us their feedback and their 2 cents that they don't care for cats, or they don't care for feral cats, or they don't care for a particular breed of dog. But we're here to talk about all animals, not just those specific animals.
So, in the bigger picture, your work keeps people safe in many
Quality
ways.
of life. It's a quality of life issue
Right.
for the communities that we serve.
Huh, that's great. So, tell us a little bit about a specific project or an event that's coming up with you.
Yeah,
Oh, you
yeah,
ready
I'm all
for-
excited. I'm all excited because this is a great time. It's Thursday night, June 19th, and it's called An Animal Affair. And it's one of our bigger fundraisers, and we have it at this time of year to help us defray the cost of our busy season. So it's an opportunity for the community to come out to the Holiday Inn by the Bay. It's from 6 to 9. Tickets are $50, and you get to bid on silent auction items. We have a live auction, and we have a game show, and we have an auctioneer, John Botero, and he is fabulous. He's been with us for about 3 years, and we just have a blast. It is
If
a
you need
great
help
time.
with doing trivia questions, let me know.
Okay, I will. I'll give you a ring. He's great. And so the crowd gets engaged. It's, a few hundred of our closest friends, and they really do come out and raise the paddle to help us provide treatment and care for so many deserving guests. So spay, neuter, medical, humane education, all of the great work that we do at the League.
If you had to take an average cost per animal,
Yeah.
what would that be?
I've
And I
done
know
it.
it varies.
It does. On average, dogs are $365 before they even, get to the adoption floor. $365. Cats are eking up at about $250, and critters are at $225.
Critter.
So
Define a
critters,
critter for
yeah,
me.
we have rabbits, bunnies. We have guinea pigs, affectionately called pigs at the League. Chinchillas, hamsters, gerbils, birds. Any
Okay,
of those
this
small
one's-
pocket pets.
This is a crazy question.
I love crazy.
In the 4
Random.
years you've been doing this, what has been the most unusual animal that's shown up at your door?
Bearded drag. I mean, the lizards, the reptiles are really out of our wheelhouse, so to speak. But we've had chickens, we've had goats, we've had farm animals. But yeah, the reptiles are really, I guess, the most interesting. Bearded dragons, we get a lot of those.
So your focus is on domesticated animals. versus-
Companion animals, yep.
Okay.
Our license isn't for exotics, but we have lots of resources. We call in folks who help us with the reptiles or wildlife. So if you find wildlife and you bring it to us, we call our friend and colleague David Sparks of Sparks Ark, and he helps us with the wildlife.
What's been the most unusual experience? I mean, when you have 400 or so animals in one place,
Yep.
it's like a preschool almost.
It is. One of the most memorable experiences I've had is we were doing a duck to dog introduction. The duck was a therapy duck and came to meet the family dog.
Wait a
And
minute,
we did
a therapy duck.
a therapy duck. No joke, no lie, a therapy duck. It
Okay.
was great. And the dog loved the duck. The duck loved the dog, and they went home, and we got pictures of them, and everyone's been cohabitating nicely. So a dog to duck introduction is the most, I guess.
Okay, I'm an animal person. I mean, I've had horses, dogs, the whole shebang. I've never heard of a therapy duck. How do you train a duck to be a therapy duck?
She did it. She was amazing. She apparently had the ducks from the time it was a duckling and trained it to be a companion animal, a companion feathered friend. And she took it to nursing homes and would put it on folks' bed and they would engage with the duck. And so she wanted to add a dog to her family, and she would like to have the dog to be a therapy dog. And it was just a wonderful representation of what's possible when you, as I challenge my team every day, David, think outside the cage.
Well, you heard it first here, folks, on Nonprofit Insider about.
Is that your first? Is that your first experience with a duck to dog introduction? It was mine.
Well, not the actual introduction, but I've never heard of a therapy duck before. So we've heard it first on Nonprofit Insider.
Yay, we win at the Animal Refuge League. We win.
If you had to make one change in the organization to strengthen the organization, what would that be?
I would invest heavily in technology. I'm a person who believes that technology is a tool to help us do our job. So we are pretty antiquated. I mean, we've made some milestone investments, but I would love to have my team to be able to have access to, smartphones and tablets and wireless capabilities so that they could work much more seamlessly. We still have a lot of paper at the league. I'd like to move us into this more information-based, less paper. So that's one of my biggest personal challenges in my commitment to the league is to bring more technology in.
And I'm sure there's grants to do that. But
There are.
You really have to plan out what you want to do with the technology.
You got to have the infrastructure
Right.
to support the technology, and I've got a great team. We don't have IT, we don't have one dedicated resource for that particular task. At a not-for-profit, I'm sure many of your listeners realize we wear 7 or 8 different hats, sometimes all within the same hour. I can do, some pump repairs to, go ask a donor for $1 million. I mean,
therapy duck training.
And therapy duck introduction. So just give us a call. We do it all. There's just a lot going on. So we wear so many different hats that we don't always have that level of expertise or skill that, say, a for-profit company may have as a dedicated resource.
All right. So let's say we have 30 seconds left.
Sure.
And I'm going to cut you off after the 30 seconds.
You go.
You and I just met.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I contribute to the Animal Refuge League?
Because we make a difference in the lives of homeless and displaced pets in Greater Portland, and we improve the quality of life for our residents in our community. We know that the work we do has meaning and purpose, and we believe that the Animal Refuge League of Greater Portland is a forward-thinking organization, and we're always planning for the next 100 years or the next decade. We've been around 103 years. Come on, classical music, duck to dog introductions.
I understand that. But I don't like animals, so why should I give to you? Why should I care?
So that you don't have stray dogs ruining your property, so that you don't have feral cats, stalking your wildlife, so that we are there to make your life better.
Okay.
I meet very few people who don't like animals. I must tell you. There are some people who don't.
Can you imagine the market you would have if you were able to bring in people who don't like animals because they understood the strength of what you provide into the community?
Right.
I mean, that was one of the biggest pitfalls that we had with Conway.
People didn't know what you do, or people don't understand.
They heard animals and they said, well, I'm not interested.
Right.
But how do you turn it around so that it's more about community?
It is about community. It's about relationships. It's about safety. It's about all the good things that make Portland and Greater Portland what they are.
Do you have any questions for me? I started doing this and...
Yeah, so how did you get into this gig? Because, when I talk to other...
danger.
When I talk to other executive directors, I'm fascinated by how distinct and diverse our backgrounds are.
Yes. Well, I was an executive director for 15 years in the nonprofit world for, that many more years. I was on the board of WMPG for 2 years. Deb and I met, and she invited me in to be a guest on her show several times, and one thing just led to another. I auditioned for a show. And I think that this is something that the community really can benefit from, not just, hearing about other organizations, but to understand what's behind the scenes with them.
think a lot of people think that we are quasi-governmental. They think that we have police power or that we go out and like the old dog catcher days. And so radio shows like this and opportunities to talk about our organization are really important to help dispel some myths or misunderstandings about what a not-for-profit's role is in the community and what we really are charged to do.
Right. I mean, and it's amazing because people I'm going to say on the average, don't get that piece of it.
Correct. I would agree.
They know that we're there or you're there.
Safety net. We're the safety net.
Right. But they don't understand what goes into the day-to-day workings that keep it alive and going.
And it's a lot for us. We operate 365 days a year. Those
Yeah,
animals need to be
right.
clean, they need to be fed, and they need to be medicated. We don't get holidays. The team is there working. So, yeah, it's really important work.
Thank you for being on the show today. This is
Thank
exciting.
you so much for having me.
It seemed this half hour just really kind of flew by.
It sure did.
Well, good. Next week, we have a special surprise guest or guests, and I can't tell you who they are, but we do know who they are. So tune in next week and be pleasantly surprised. The music on Nonprofit Insider appears courtesy of Mike Hubbard. You can find it on www.michaelhubbardmusic.com. Check out Mike's website to see where he's playing this weekend. Thanks to Deb Danger, NPI's executive engineer. You can catch Deb on Morning Street Fridays at 6:30. If you know of a nonprofit that should be on the show, please email me at npi@davidunger.net.